So, this has probably happened to you in your lifetime at least once. So, you ever had that day where somebody accuses you of doing their mate and you ever did a thing? And they're like so sure of it. Let's see, let me think. Uh, okay, I had a good friend of mine, and I heard he was deceased last time I went back to Memphis. A guy named Larry Gregory. This guy was a character. Southern guy, really funny as hell. And I knew him from a club that I worked, and a big country and western club that I worked for a friend of mine, Wayne Webb. He's like a brother to me. And this guy, he did things for money. He was into transporting cars all of a sudden from over state line. And one of the cars that I had bought, a red Cadillac in Memphis from Ace uh, car sales, that ripped me off. And this car had like 5 different VIN numbers and a bogus tag flipped over on the back and weird stuff. And I never even got it registered at $600 a month, not counting my down. Uh, and I remember one night in the club, Larry goes, "I moved that car from Bama, and yeah, it's chop shop." I'm like, oh boy. Anyway, Larry is a character. So I had this really big house, and I had like 25 stoves and refrigerators to move out because it was made into like an apartment building. It was so big. It was 15-room Victorian, 5 stories with 1 bedroom, 1 story in the back, and it was over 100 years old. And so I had all these old refrigerators. The big mistake I made was there was a refrigerator that was in my office upstairs that had the part where you load the ice in the top, and I should have kept that thing. But anyway, I offered the guy to come get him because he just didn't want to pay much for him over the phone. And so I told him, I said, look, just bring me a working washer. And so he comes and he spends like 2 days, moving all this stuff out from upstairs, downstairs, everything. And I did keep the refrigerator that was in the back house because it was an old Frigidaire that you opened with the big handle on it. It was really cool. And it worked, of course. And so anyway, the guy brings me the washer. The flipping washer breaks like 3 times. I think Larry came over and tried to fix it once, and he just said it was bull crap. And so he said, look, I'll sell you a washer. And so I caught him in the club that one night I was cocktailing up there at the Queen, and I said, Larry, how much you want for that fridge? And he says, for that washer. And he said, look, I'm buying my wife a new one. He said, and I'll give you that washer for like 150 or 175 bucks. And I went to Wayne and I said, is that a good deal? And he's like, well, if it works. And I said, well, okay, as long as it's a big washer, and I could do extra big loads, and it has a delicate cycle, that's all I care about. And because I used to wash my fur coats in the washer, as long as it had an extra big load and delicate, they came out great with one big thing of woolite. And then I would hang them to dry. Anyway, and so I went and laid the money on the table to Larry, and I said, when can you bring the washer? He said, I'll bring it, in the next 24 hours. I'm like, great. So he comes over in the daytime, brings this washer, loads it in the house, hooks it up, stays long enough for it to run. He says, I promise you won't have a problem with this washer. And I said, man, that's great. And so he leaves. Then, like, for the next 4 weeks, this woman appears at the end of my driveway, at a 15-car driveway, and in this vehicle, standing outside the door, screaming obscenities at me as I'm out working in the yard and stuff. And I didn't know who this person was. I had no clue. And I called Wayne Webb up and I said, there is a woman in my driveway screaming her bloody brains out. She keeps coming back here. I don't know who she is. And I said, it's like kind of scary. I mean, I hate to call the police on her, but which they were only like blocks away, And he says, I bet I know who that is. And he come by and drove by the house, and that woman was still out there at the end of the driveway. He calls me back, and he said, that's Larry Gregory's wife. I said, well, who's Larry Gregory's wife? Do I know her or something? And he goes, no. He says, but I'll let him know. And this went on for like a month. And then finally Larry came over and he said, I am so sorry. And he came over and apologized. Even offered me my money back. And here she pulled up the driveway again, screaming bloody murder out the end of my damn driveway. He walks out there like he's going to beat her from here to New York. And told her, don't ever come back. And this was over a washer deal, Anyway, and no one ever slept with Larry Gregory. And from what I heard, he's deceased now for I don't know how many years. So let's see. Then there was the grocery store. The grocery store. When I was managing at Piggly Wiggly out by Memphis, there was a guy, and I've told this story before on YouTube. There was a guy it was kind of a big goofy looking dude, and he come in, like once a week, set up his end cap thing, whatever. And, he always checked in at the office first, and then he would go back there for a few hours, and then he would come back. And he was always, kind of shy, real sweet, very polite, and, never any problem. And then I go into work one day, and my boss, the main manager of the store, Bill Cabanis, he says, hey, Red, he says, he says, so-and-so, the bread guy, Coke guy, whatever he was, I can't remember what he did. He said, so-and-so is in big trouble. I said, really? I said, wow, why? And he said, well, his girlfriend or wife, whatever it is, he said, thinks you're doing him. And I'm like, what? Okay, I mean, that's just, kind of a big goofy looking dude with glasses, baseball cap, sweet as pie, just not my type. And so anyway, I'm like, quit. And Bill's like, no, I'm really serious. He was telling me this story. His wife thinks you're doing him, and I'm like, huh? No. And he thought it was hilarious. And I said, well, I mean, why would do I know his wife? Or all I ever see is this guy comes in by himself to service the store, and he does the same match. He's just real sweet, and I have to check his list and whatever, and check his inventory before he leaves every time he comes in the store. It's a real quick and clean thing, and so I'd never seen him with anybody. So then he says, well, what happened was, I guess he was like having a dream, and he yells out your name. I said, how does he yell out my name? Red is the color of a crayon, red is whatever. And he's like, no, he yells out your name. She's like, who's Red? And I'm like, oh, sure, right. Like, I thought this was like a seriously big joke, you know what I mean? Like, he was just, what they call pulling your leg. Oh, look, somebody's trying to poo-poo on my YouTube with that music. The ghetto blasters. So, anyway, let's see if I can knock some of that noise out. No. Let's try again. Nope. That didn't work. So anyway, this guy comes in the store one day, and he's got this little skinny girl with him with dark hair, and she's like, following him around in the store, and And uh, I guess, I figured he was training somebody. Well, it turns out that this girl, everybody's coming at once here. It turns out that this girl is actually not getting trained, I guess. So the way I found out was my boss comes up and he says, "Hey, Red, come here." I said, "What?" And he says, "See that girl with so-and-so?" I can't remember that guy's name. It was like Bobby or some plain name. It says, "You see that girl?" And I said, "Yeah, so I guess he's training a new person." He said, "No, that's his wife, girlfriend, whatever it was." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Oh." And he said, and so he says, "You might be in big trouble." I said, "Look, I can pick that girl up with my pinky. Got me?" I'm like, "Be real." And back then I was still pumping a lot of iron, so I was still twisted steel and sex appeal. But anyway, so and most people were kind of intimidated by me, especially if I wore a tank top. But anyway, so problems were easily solved. But anyway, so he goes, he does this little thing, and then as he's getting ready to go, he comes over and he brings a clipboard so I can like check it off, whatever, for his inventory. And he says, "Oh, by the way, I wanted to introduce you." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Is this your new trainee?" And he goes, "Well, kind of." He said, "She's, assisting me on my runs today." And I said, "Oh, cool." And he said, "This is so and so." I can't remember if he introduced her as his girlfriend, wife, or just her name. So what did I do? And I told Bill Cavernous, I said, "Watch this. Just even jack with me, okay?" Um, so what did I do? I said, "Wow," and I was like giving her the goo goo eyes, right? Now, I am not gay in any way. 100% all American beef girl, through and through. Um, yeah. And so I'm like giving her the goo goo eye thing, and she's like looking at me, and then I'm like flipping my hair, and I'm like, "Girl, you're just gorgeous. Did anybody tell you that?" And just going on and on and on. And it just laying it on her. And the guy is just like looking at me. Like, oh my gosh, she's like putting the make on my chick. That's exactly what I was going to do. Because you can call me gay before you ever accuse me of doing your dude when I didn't do him. You know what I mean? So I can be gay in a heartbeat. Trust me. So anyway, all you gotta do is work with a bunch of strippers for any amount of time, and you can put on a great show. Okay. But anyway, I learned from some of the best, and I'm not gay, and I'm not interested in gay. But anyway, so that was the end of that. And the next time the guy come in, he acted kind of odd, and that was kind of the end of that deal. And then he had talked to Bill, and Bill come to me and he said, "Red," he said, "what did you do?" I said, "I was like, talking some poop, like putting the make on that chick." He goes, "You didn't?" I said, "As sure as heck I did." I said, "I cannot stand a jealous chick that is up my butt accusing me of some crap, especially over a piece of junk like that, man. Really? Let it be good, okay?" Because I'm really particular. I have had very few men in my life. I'm very selective. I'm very particular, and I don't do any junk. But anyway, I mean, some became junk, even though they're very nice looking men. But not all nice looking men are quality. That's a fact. So anyway, so as life goes on, back in California, I managed an apartment building for Rocky. That was a mess. And down on Ocean, right across the street from the beach at Venice Weight Pen, where I used to spend the majority of my time pumping iron out in the sunshine. Yay. And that my husband had built many years before that. And they had moved it from Santa Monica down to Venice. But he literally like did the welding of, most all the weights and the bars and stuff for that. But anyway, so, that was a really happy place because I could just walk over to the pen from my place. And my place faced the street, first floor. I parked my car in front on the street, which was problematic. I had my white convertible Fiat Samantha back then. And so one day, I'm sitting on the couch, which was right next to the big giant picture window at the sidewalk. And as I had a unit right in front, I think it was like number 1. And I saw Annette Jackson. I was like, whoa! She's like walking by my window. So I took and I jumped out that front door, come down the steps. Annette. Annette Jackson is a black girl that was been a very dear friend of mine for years. We worked out together. I trained her. I helped train her to be an Olympic powerlifter. We were best friends. Funniest character on the face of this earth. We split many a lunch together when we only had a few pennies to our name. And just really great friends. Just pals to the end. And so I even took Annette places like, to clubs and stuff because, I had a car and she never did. She rode a bicycle. That's all she cared about was just healthy stuff. And so, I ran out there, hey, Annette. And she turned around and said, what are you doing? And I told her, oh, I moved back from the valley. I'm back here now. I lived out in the valley for a little bit. And so we were talking, and there was this really big Amazon 100% Indian chick, like something out of a movie. And I'm not talking like this chick was like 500 pounder. I'm talking like lean and mean, like a sequoia tree. You know what I mean? This sucker was at least 7 foot tall. She had to be. And that wasn't much taller than me. We were both about the same size. So this chick thing, Indian, was like really huge, towering over us. And was kind of like standing around and walk a few steps and kind of stood over here and then kind of, leaning against the wall. And I was like, this is so strange. This person is like just hanging out while we're talking. And it's like, so where you been? And big smiles. We were just having a blast talking. And this person kept kind of hovering around us, And then Annette turns around and says, hey, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. And she introduces me to this big Indian chick. And I'm like, well, hey, how you doing? I've known Annette for years and good to know you, really nice to meet you kind of thing, and just super nice. Well, Annette was apparently living right like across the empty lot from my building to this other little apartment building. And, like 200 foot away, right? And it was the big Indian chick's apartment. So she was staying with her. And so that became problematic. And it was really strange. And I'm like, when I'd see that down at the weight pen, I'd say, man, that chick, your friend, that you stay with, you know, she's like, you know, acts really strange. And when she walks by, she like gives me the eagle eye, you know, and stuff. I'm like, you know, I don't know her from before this, do I? And Annette goes, well, you know, I don't want you to be offended, and I hope you'll still be my friend. And I said, okay. She says, well, the big Indian chick is, you know, like my sugar mama, a sugar daddy. I'm like, so you mean she's like a dude chick? She says, well, yeah, you know, you do what you got to do, man. I got a roof. She pays all my food, my vitamins, everything for my workouts, my competition, and everything. And you do what you got to do, man. She says, I hope you're not offended if, you know, I'm sleeping with you know, a dude chick. And I said, no, that's your own business. I mean, I still like his friend. She goes, you do? I said, well, sure. That's your biz. Just don't drag me into it. Well, then they ended up inviting me over to their house, and they were very nice. Had me over for dinner a couple times. Got to be good friends. When they moved to New Mexico together, they decided to move to New Mexico because that's where the dude chick was from. They they sold me a lot of stuff that they had, dirt cheap, and I bought a ton from them. And you know, to help them out, they needed the money to make the move. But they said they could get a place like really cheap, you know, in New Mexico. I mean, they had like houses out there for like $300 a month. They were huge, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, Annette is back in California now, years later, and she is a doorman at a club, at a nightclub. So anyway, uh, um, so uh, you know, as the years go by, let's see if I can think of another one. Oh, because I've had it numerous times. Oh, here was a guy that uh, I knew from the corner store at the Florida State Line over in Asto when I had my shop over at the Florida State Line. And we needed some fence work. And so I saw this guy several times. Then he stopped at my property once, and I said, hey, I said, are you here, you know, to look at the fence stuff because I need to find out, you know, what it's going to take and everything, and, you know, I'll show you what it is and all that. And then let me know, you know, what it's going to be. Because my husband at that time would pay for it anyway. And so the guy walks the property, you know, and then he says, you know, it looks like this, but, you know, I'll get back with you on a bid. You know, give me your number. I gave him my number. And then he texted me a couple times. And the next thing you know, I am getting numerous texts of stay away from my effing man. Don't jack with my man. I swear I'll whoop your butt. And it's like, man, you better come on down with a sack lunch and your whole freaking family. You know, make a big invite. Because where I come from, you know, you don't look for me, I look for you. But yeah, and if this crap kept coming and coming and coming, and then it would come from his phone, and then that's how I figured it out. So I said, well, I'm not calling this guy's phone anymore. I see him in the store one day, and I said, look, I don't know if you lost your phone, changed your number, what, but I'm getting a bunch of goofball freaking text messages and calls from this weird number, and then some real cocky messages from you. And you know, I don't know what the deal is. But you know, it just is like off the wall. What's up? He says, oh well, I have this girlfriend, you know, like kind of girlfriend, and I keep trying to get rid of her, and we fight, and she gets a hold of my phone and won't give it back for days, and she hides it, and then she's all through my phone, and 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 then he's like, she's a minor or some crap, and he says, says, she called my work one day and threatened the secretary, just calling whatever numbers. If you touch my man and da 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 da, and because he worked for a construction company, and it was like, dude, what? I said, you don't need any trash like that because you end up losing your job over that crap. And she thought she was calling some chick that she thought was doing you, and it's, the secretary of your work. Like, oh, that's real good. And I said, here's a guy I'm trying to hire to do a fence, and it's got this child texting and threatening me and carrying on with a bunch of crap when all I'm doing is trying to get some fence work done. Like, really? Um, let's see. I'm trying to think of another one. Oh, when I was with Carvel said that Joyce St. Columbia knew that I was after her husband and that I was uh, doing him or something and da 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 da. And it was like, really? But see, Carvel was a drama queen himself. He probably created that himself. But I was down at their business many times, cashing in cans, and brought them gifts. My daughter and I would cook and make, hundreds of gingerbread cookies, wrap them up and take them to all people we did business with and stuff as gifts, post office, everywhere. And, we brought, gingerbread cookies down to Joe's one day for him and his wife and his employees. And, next thing you know, Carl will go, well, Joyce St. Columbia called me and she wanted to know what you were doing down there at the Miller Company. It was like my daughter and I went down there to take gingerbread cookies to Joe and his wife and his employees and his son. And today, Joyce has passed away. She was very, very ill and had several surgeries that were just horrible. But she's no longer around, and Joe was still around. And no, I did not ever sleep with Joe either. Joe was a good friend through Carvel, and was actually a better friend than Carvel. Because Carvel was a fake. But anyway, yeah. Let's see what else. Trying to think of all the different ones that ever accused me. But if you've ever been in that situation, you should comment below. Because it does happen. People get silly and they assume things that are not. I was accused years later of another one. And it pissed me off so much that I did end up dating them. And to this day, I can still go back at any time, got an open door. And yeah, that was always a lot of fun with that guy. So there you have it. Don't jack with me, man. But yeah, so yeah. Let's see. God, I had so many of them that used to do that, and they were jealous of me and accused me of doing their dude. Ha ha! It's true. It's factual, man. It's factual. Factual. I'm just going through all the people that accused me of doing their mate, and I wasn't doing them. It's so funny when people get so goofy and so jealous and swear up and down. Oh, here was one. Thanks for thumbs up. Here was one. I was working at Tiffany's in Memphis, dancing. And working with this other girl that was younger than me. She was like 20 or something. And sometimes, I guess her guy would come in with a bunch of other guys, the young guys, like in a pack. And they were always hooping hollerers and all that stuff. And I mean, you're working the floor, you're working the floor. Now, yeah, it's actually when you're working, a gentleman's club, it's kind of neat because you can actually pick who you want to dance for. And if you really like who you're dancing for, You make good money and good tips all the way around. You know what I mean? Although ugly, fat, bald, and short and handicapped make the most money, and old make the most money. But it's kind of like the banquet of babes. You can pick all the great looking dudes, period. The only problem was when you dance for young guys. The young guys were easy. I mean, you made your money, and sometimes they tipped, but they were fun to dance for because they were respectful. They never, got stupid with their hands or anything. It was a real easy, quick, and clean dance, and it was just always a lot of laughs and stuff. But it was never my big preference to dance for, real young guys. So anyway, so there was this crew of these young guys in there one night, and Tiffany's real high end gentleman's club, okay? And so like there's like, I don't know, 10 or 15 guys over there that are like in their 20s. They're early 20s. And they're, clean cut guys, and they're really having a ball, laughing and joking around and stuff. And I walk by, and one of the guys says, I want to buy a dance from you for my friend. And I said, okay. And that always, it doesn't always work out well because sometimes they're just jacking around. And I'm like, all right, you want main floor or you want VIP? And that guy says, I want to buy him a VIP. I said, well, that's $100 plus tip per song. And he goes, that's what I want. And I said, okay. And I held my hand out. And do you know, dude slapped a $100 bill on me. And he says, tip you when you get back. And I said, that's fine. Took the kid upstairs, danced for him. He was really nice, very polite, not like crabby and stupid. He was really, really nice. And danced for him, I mean, the song is not that long. You're talking like 3 to 9 minutes at the longest to play something that really drags out. But usually it's not very long. And so I did a dance for him, and as a matter of fact, I did like 1.5 songs because we went up there in like the middle of a song, and instead of waiting, I just went ahead and sat him down and danced like 1.5 songs. And we didn't pay by the dance up there then. We just paid a house fee, and then a cut of what we made to everybody. You paid a cut of everybody in the house. We didn't pay by the dance, and so it was my call, whatever I want to do. So we had gone up there, and I just started dancing for him like half that song there, and then just went into the next song and finished at the next song. And he's like, man, you're a great dancer. And I'm like, well, thank you so much. And I said, that was really fun. And we got to walk back downstairs, take him back to his friends, and his buddies are like jacking with him. They're like going, so was it good? Was it good? And he goes, it was the best. And I was like, well, thank you, and I was hoping to maybe, catch a couple of the dances there. So I went up to the dressing room and went up to make sure, to check my hair. I had to change clothes for my next set because I always change for every stage call. And I'm getting ready to walk out of the dressing room, and this girl comes just rolling on in there, and she says, Red. And I said, what? And she says, you touched my man. I said, excuse me? You touched my man. What were you doing with my man? I said, so who's your man? And I said, because like your man, boyfriend, and all that major house rule by Steve Cooper is no boyfriends allowed. So if you're talking about your man being in this club, you are mistaken. Well, he is. He is. And you touched my man. I'm like, excuse me? I said, did you have your man written across his forehead like in permanent marker or something? Because point him out. And she was like, took me out there, and she was like pointing downstairs, because dressing room was way upstairs so we could look over on the balcony. She's like pointing down to all those guys that were down there. He's over there with those guys. And I'm like, so? And she's like, and you touched my man. I said, yeah, well, I did a dance for him. How about that? And I was paid for it and tipped when I got back. I said, but he didn't He didn't have on his forehead your stage name and don't touch. He's open market, if he enters the doors of this club, other than the fact that, like if I go to management right now, you're fired because you just violated house policy. So you can take it one of two ways. You either shut your face and we carry on with this evening, or you keep whining and I'm going to management and you're fired. Choose it. I'll let you make that call. And I walked out of the dressing room. So that was the end of that story. But yeah, and so like I didn't do anything to the dude. I just did a dance, and he was 100% respectful. A lot of fun, great dance, and his friends were very, very nice. And I got paid very well for the dance, and I sure hate it for you because all money's green and we're there to do a job. So it's strictly an entertainment business. That's all it is. There's other girls that do that, strain for some change, and you know, um, crackos are us and all that other crap. So anyway, you have lots of stories. Oh gosh, yes, I could tell you stories all day long. When I run costumes in the clubs, especially up at old Matterhorn Club, the girls used to love to have me tell them, dancer stories, and they're like, come on, tell us a dancer story. And I'm like, why? What? But the business is really funny. Gentlemen's clubs are so much different than straight bars. Um, they're wild. I mean, there's stuff you could say in a gentleman's club at the bar that you would never be able to say in a regular bar. Um, I mean, all you do is laugh in strip clubs. That's really all you do, because so much crazy stuff happens. It's just hilarious. Um, uh, you know, Especially in Memphis. Memphis was really a lot of fun to work. Um, it really, really was. A lot of money. There was so much money in Memphis. But, all the clubs were good. Even the crapola, Brooks Road clubs were good. The high-end clubs were awesome. Platinum, Gold Club, all that stuff. They were rocking. Classy, classy clubs. I mean, where limos pulled up all the time, and they were really neat. It was kind of like working at casinos. They're just super high end. I worked for the casinos a lot too when they first opened in Tunica. And I bartended and waitressed, and money was horrendous. But we didn't have quite as much fun as in the strip clubs. Strip clubs were right. I mean, I used to party in the strip clubs before I ever danced in them. I partied in them and I made costumes on the side at times when I needed money for the electric bill or something. I'd whoop up some panties and gloves and run them through the clubs, in a little tiny, suitcase like we used when we were a kid going to slumber party kind of thing. And uh, I'd sell all the stuff out in one or two clubs, boom, and I'd have $200 for electric bill, that I needed to make or something. But the strip clubs were the best to party in because they had full security. They always escorted women in and out. And you never had problem with dudes or anything. All you do is call a security guy over or the owner. And they'd say, hey man, be respectful. Um, and so, you always had somebody walk you out to your car. You didn't even have to have a gun. I used to always carry a gun in my car. And, but at the strip clubs, you don't even really have to have it because, there was always somebody working a lot that was watching when you pulled up and, came to your car and escorted you in. And there was always somebody to escort you out and went till you left and locked the doors and everything. And you never had trouble in the clubs at all. So, but strip clubs are raucous fun. They're hilarious. I mean, I remember when we did at Tiffany's, they decided they were going to, women always hated strip clubs. They hated their men in strip clubs. They just thought strip clubs were evil. They thought they were just nothing but drugs and hoes and everything else. And it's not exactly that. It's an entertainment industry. That's what it was designed to be. And a lot of girls that do shows, I mean, are like artwork. They're like, I mean, it's like artwork in motion. There's some fabulous, fabulous showgirls. It's not all about showing booty and titty. It's the movement on stage. And I mean, when I first danced, if you couldn't dance a step, you weren't working. You had to literally dance, and we had big runway stages. And if you didn't know how to work that runway stage, you didn't have a job because they had no interest in you. You had to be able to put on a show, and you never hit that deck. Back in the day, we never did private dances, but we put on a show. And I mean, I taught professional dance, so I had it kind of going on, man. And there's one thing you can never hold back from me is a discotheque. I've danced on every dance floor in the state of California. I guarantee you, from San Diego all the way to San Francisco, I promise you there's not a dance floor that I had missed. Not in any city in the state of California. Because I had been there. I was not with the dude that sat on the couch drinking the beers all the time. I was out and about, man. Meeting people, man. I knew so many people in the state of California. It was beyond belief how many people I knew. People say, how many friends you got? I said, man, I got like thousands. I go to any city, any place, and there are new people. You know, yeah. I was just one of those kind of people, man. I was everywhere. Everywhere that was everything and anything that was going on and any cool place to be going to. I was there. Even if it was Disneyland. By God, I was there. And I worked a lot of bar rooms, a bunch of them. Lots of saloons, they called it. Sure did. But all different types of saloons, from country and western to rock and roll to disco to old timey, 1940s music type thing, swing, big band, Dixieland jazz, piano bar, hotels, airport. I've worked a lot of different bartending jobs, but um, yeah. I mean, tuxedo service is always my favorite. I work country clubs. I've done a lot of that, but I just kind of got tired of it because I had quit drinking um, back in when I had one of my little girls. I had decided the party life was over, and so I quit drinking. I had kids to raise, and so I didn't have a lot of patience all the years after that to work the clubs because it was really hard to deal with the stupid drunks. Reminded me of the old photo thing at the fair where those old what? I can't see it. It won't come back. Where's the message? Let's see if I can catch it. Where are those old pictures? Where are you? I can't even pull it up. Look. Well, it reminded me of the old photo thing at the fair where those old Western photos. I did one of those. Well, two of those. Uh, when I used to get really drunk, like rolled up in the window shade, then I would go the next day, and oh my gosh, it was like so hungover. Um, I would go the next day and go to one of those cool photo shoot things and pay big money and dress up in the old saloon girl stuff and all that and let them do pictures of me. And they were really cool pictures, though. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not kidding you. And then I went with a good friend of mine and we did one just for fun one day. He was dying of cancer. And I said, let's go to the mall. And those were really fun. I don't even know if they do that stuff anymore. But it was so cool, the cool costumes. Always want to do that. Oh my God, you didn't do that? Oh, they're so cool. I wish I still had those pictures. Um, uh, all those pictures were lost. I had them for years and years. Um, and my really good jewelry from Bill West were in those pictures too. That was so beautiful. Ugh. But yeah, they were fun. Yeah, sometimes I would go to the mall in Congo Park. and go ice skating. They had ice skating rink there, and I would just take off and go ice skating. Um, I think they did. I saw a picture of my cousin who did it. Oh, they're just too much fun. Um, there was only two studios that really did pictures. It was that Olin Mills. I mean, Olin Mills was around forever. God, that Olin Mills did the pictures of my mommy, my daddy, me, of our family and stuff when I was little bitty. The only problem with Olin Mills is they keep all the pictures and they're registered, and it's really hard to try to get a duplicate. It's like applying for a visa or something. It's it's. I've tried for years to get duplicates of the pictures that my family took. You know, because that was like a ritual. And then the but the other one, the saloon ones, man, they were so much fun. I mean, they were way more fun than the picture booths. Remember the picture booths? When you could go in there and you could like stuff a whole bunch of friends all at once in the picture booth, and then it was like a big major argument to try to put money in, and everybody like smile all at the same time, and you'd have like 10 friends piled in that little booth. It's only meant for one. you know, those were really cool too. And you had to wait forever for the pictures, and then you had to wait forever for them to dry because when it shot it out, they were still wet. I guess they were like some kind of Polaroid or something. It would print it right there, and you had to hold on to it, be careful so you didn't scratch it because it'd be wet. And then once they dried, they were usually pretty cool. But yeah, those were fun. But uh, yeah, too raucous, just too raucous. But yeah, some of the cool things that you would go do. Um, just amazing. The things we thought were really cool and entertaining. Um, Sort of like when I went out to the Indian reservation in freaking Serena. Serena. Ah, we decided to go. Actually, I did a vlog about this. Go camping out at Morongo Indian Reservation by ourselves, out by the hills, the mountains, whatever that is, in the dark, on I don't know whose property. It used to be a ranch, and the stupid crap that I did when I was underage. Um, I left home real young, so uh, I hung out with people usually a little bit older than me, and Serena was probably like 22 back then, and I was underage, and she's like, "We'll go to the res, and we'll go camping, and we'll have a fire, and we'll cook over the fire, and we'll ride horses, and God, that was messy, messy, messy." But that's in another vlog. It was really funny though. It was actually incredibly funny. It was a horrible thing, but it was funny. That's a fact. Yeah, and never do that again. We could have been like bitten by rattlesnakes. I mean, there was a lot of stuff could have happened to us out there, especially in the dark, dude. That was scary though. Man, when the night fell, it was like it was hard to tell the sky from the mountain next to us. I mean, it was like, and it was spooky. It was so spooky that even she got scared, and nothing scared her, man. That sucker, if a snake came, she would bite it and it would run away. You know what I mean? Nothing scared her. Nothing. Yeah, that was hilarious. That was so hilarious. But yeah, I always ended up in really weird places. Weird places at the wrong time sometimes. My dad told me, before I even left home, he said, my dad's captain in the Navy, if you ever get in trouble with the law, and you go to jail. Don't call me. So that put the fear of God in me, man. I was like, oh man, I better not screw up, not ever. Well, even after I moved out, I still was scared to death of that. And I said, man, I better not deface my family name for anything in the world. I better be really careful. But man, you end up with some bozos that you trust and you think are cool friends, and they do stupid crap, and it's like you're going, man, you're like that song, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you're like taking a breath going, how do I get out of here? That's when you learn to bring your own car. You don't ride in other people's cars or anything like that. You always bring your own car, or you have enough money to take the bus, which in California the bus runs 24 hours. Um, yeah, and you you have a way out. I used to roller skate a lot. I used to roller skate, man, miles. I would roller skate to different cities. I roller skated. Yeah, and so that was super cool. You know, and these people pulling behind me, mother God. So yeah, so it was just uh really really wild, all those differences one time. Oh no, I was a serious roller skater. Oh my gosh, I'm serious. I mean, roller skate for miles, roller skater. I like to roller skate outside. I don't like to go to a rink, and I've been to many rinks. I've gone around circles 1,000 times, cool, running in circles. Um, but it's boring. It's boring, and there's always some trickster or something that's going to speed by you or just almost trip you, and it's like, no. I would rather skate on the streets. I jumped a chain link fence one time for a $200 bet, and I was still drunk from the night before. We were all still drunk from the night before. I think we went on like a 3-day drunk, and there was like 12 of us, and we all rented skates and decided we were going to skate the next day. We were still up, and we were down at Santa Monica and Venice Beach, and some joker says to me, "Bet you can't jump that fence right there. Give you $200 cash." I'm like, "Whoop it out. When in doubt, man." And what did I do? I jumped that freaking chain link fence, and I did get the $200. That's crazy as well. Even after I think I had lost my balance by the end of it. I got one kid that's messed up because they took her to a roller rink without my permission at her school. And I would not wish that on any of my children. I would like to be there if they're going to go to a roller rink, because it really isn't that safe. You got too many speedsters and people, and you get hurt. But they took her anyway, and she ended up busting her arm, which was sucky. And she was staying with her dad while I was working on the road running costumes, and they thought it was just like a bruised wrist or something. When I get back, I'm like freaking out because her arm's like black for 2 days. I took her to the emergency room. I said, "There's something wrong with my daughter's arm, and I want to know what is going on." And so they come back in and they're like, "Well, it's broken." And I'm like, "Broken? Really?" I was so in flames. And it was like, her dad and his girlfriend go, when I called him and I said, "I've got her down here and like her, arm is broken. So it's been broken for like what, 2 weeks, and I'm on the road." And they're like, "Well, the nurse at her school said." So first of all, she wasn't supposed to be on that field trip. I didn't pay for it, and I wrote no on the paper. Absolutely not. Two, a school nurse is not a doctor. Dude, you aren't fixing that crap with a Band-Aid. And the roller rink should have been sued, and that was the next place I was at the lawyer's office with my daughter. I was pissed. I was really pissed. Um, but yeah, I'm a big fan of skating on the street. Love it. Absolutely love it. God, I can't tell you how many places, how many cities I've gone skating city to city. And yeah, sometimes things happen, man. It's all about being a parent, and goofy crap happens. And even if you're standing right over, it's so hard to control some crazy stuff that happens with kids. Mm-hmm. It's shameful, shocking, amazing. Yep. But um, yeah, I love to skate. Man, I just love it. It's just too much fun. Yep. I used to disco skate. I learned it from people down at Venice Beach, and everybody used to go down and skate down there, and a lot of the black dudes were down there skating. And I was nice to everybody, so I'm like, hey, will you show me how to do that? And you get somebody who's really really nice, and you're like, well, sure. And they're like, come on, and you go over there, and it's like total magic when somebody's teaching you how to dance on skates. It is so neat. It is just too much fun. And I went down there one day years later. I had gone back to visit my daddy in California, and of course, I brought my skates, man. I never went anywhere working across the states without my skates in the trunk, buddy. Oh, if I had a free minute, I would put my skates on before I went to work and just go skating. I always carried my skates in the trunk. And so when I went back home, I had my skates, and these people are freaking weird. Why do people always pull up next to my car acting goofy and weird? My. So anyway, I um, I swear, the land of weird today. Today, the whole day has been nuts. So, but and now I just forgot what I was saying. Da 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 da. Uh, but yeah, I would bring my skates wherever I went. Oh yeah, so when I went to California back home to see my daddy, on one of my trips, uh, he was like, okay, so let's see, tomorrow we'll go and uh, we could, ride bikes. We'll go down to Venice Beach in Santa Monica. And I went, oh, okay. Now this is a place my dad hated. When I was young, he was like, if I catch you down there, it's all over. And he used to chase me down there and catch me, like be cruising down there in his Mercedes or his Porsche and like repo me off the beach. Like I was doing really bad evil things or something. And so anyway, and I wasn't. Anyway, Venice Beach was weird when I was young. It was just kind of a weird place. Um, um, this comedian Robin Williams, he was out on the boardwalk, Santa Monica boardwalk, taking tips in a can, telling jokes and being funny and acting silly on the boardwalk. Robin Williams, the comedian. Johnny Carson found him there and put him on his show. But yeah, you'd see Robin Williams down there. You would see that black guy with the big long braids and dreads that was always like on heroin that played the electric guitar. Yeah, that Joker was down there playing a freaking electric guitar. Oh God, I hated that. He's that guy's dead now too. Um, and there was just different people down there that was like so-called entertain. It was kind of interesting. Uh, I mean, it wasn't as good as in NOLA where they do some really serious entertaining on the streets. Um, in New York, but yeah. So my daddy says I remember the Robin Williams 7. Yeah, but Robin was a partier like 95% of his life. His life was already shortened before he got to that point. Um, and you do pay the price. You're lucky to live after 40 if you keep partying. I'm gonna tell you that right off the top. You're gonna need to quit when you're 30 because it's gonna kill you. You want to play that fast lane, you won't do it for long. I got a lot of friends, many friends. Most of them died between the ages of 40 and 50 because they wouldn't quit the party life. And then they did so much damage to themselves prior to that. Being heavy with the drugs, the drinking, whatever, they wore their bodies out before their time. Um, So it's like, there is a reality there, and you really have to pay attention to reality. And I mean, whether you have children or not. See, I didn't have kids most of my life, so the only one I had to babysit was me. And yes, I was one of those that jumped off a tall building in a single bound, and could outrun a freight train and all that cool stuff. Fly like Superman. I was all that. Promise you. I was just incredible, man. And but there is a sense of reality at one point. You just gotta really. Now, I never had to go to rehab or any of that kind of crap. I was never like serious addict of alcohol, drugs, any of that. Um, I worked very, very hard, and I partied hard too, man. When I had, a little bit of time off, I always worked 2 and 3 jobs at once. I made bank, and no man paid my way. I just was not that kind of girl. Um, I worked for what I had, and no man was going to take that away from me. Um, so, yeah, if I wanted something, I went out and worked and got it. I didn't have to wait for some guy to come along and be asking for it. But yeah, so anyway, so my dad and I, that was really odd that he wanted to go and like ride bikes down at Venice Beach in Santa Monica, because my dad, that was just hoodoo if I were to go anywhere near there. And trust me, like I said before, he repoed me there a couple times, like I was really, in a bad place, like hanging out with trash or something. And Venice Beach and Santa Monica were a freaking blast. You just were careful. You watched who you hung out with. You watched, where you walked. Uh-oh, and who accused you? My daddy. My daddy. He thought I was a bad person because, I was like hanging out at Venice Beach and Santa Monica. And I mean, what else was I gonna do other than teaching people how to sail and sailing? But anyway, so I thought it was really odd he wanted to go down to Santa Monica and Venice. I mean, my dad didn't do anything with us when we were young, except for, like sailing, like when we were racing Wet Wednesdays or teaching people how to sail, or working at sailing school. That's all it ever was. Don't think my dad was the guy that goes out and tosses a ball with you or any of that kind of stuff. He's never been that way. And no, no. Um. So anyway, everything was pretty much 100% work, 100% work. And so anyway, I said, well, okay, great, we'll do that. And so he says, well, I could like go buy a bike or something, but I've got, a real nice bike that I take, on the boat that folds up. He had this $1,000 fold up chrome bike thing. And what he does with it is he ties it to the mast of the boat. And so when he comes to some place like the Bahamas or wherever he's sailed to, he'll bring that little bicycle with him, that fold-up bicycle, and he'll unfold it, and he can ride it around where he goes to. And I was like, wow, when people have money, $1,000 fold-up bike. Amazing. And it's like a little miniature thing. It looks like a circus bike. It's hilarious. I thought that was just freaking hilarious. I'm like, yes, so you paid $1,000 for like half a bike. But anyway, so what are you gonna do with a fold-up bike? So anyway, we go down to the beach, and Daddy pulls out, his little fold-up bicycle out of the car, and out of Mercedes, and so I had my skates, and I put these skates on, and I got 4 wheels on each boot, right? And we're riding along on the boardwalk, He looks down and he says, so, those skates, he says, like, you got 8 wheels. Aren't you kind of out of style? Everybody's like, got the other kind, which were those, they look like ice skates. They have a little wheels all in a row. I hate those skates. They are zero use to me. And now I skate on ice, but I don't do those kind of roller skates, things like that. And he said, yours are kind of old-fashioned, aren't they? And he kind of laughed. I said, old-fashioned? I said, that's where I skated. day, and he thought that was really hilarious. So we're riding along, he's riding his little bicycle, his little circus-looking bicycle, and I'm roller skating, and we're cruising down, all the way to Santa Monica, and we come back, and we get right by the Venice Weight Pen, right by that turnaround there, kind of in between this sidewalk cafe and the Venice Weight Pen, and that big turnaround is still there all these years later by the palm trees, and it's like a big circle of concrete, and guess what's there? The disco dancing roller skaters. That's right. And my daddy's like, wow, look at that. And I said, yeah, look at this. And I rode right into the crowd and was dancing right with them, and then showed a couple people some tricks that were showed to me years ago. And just having a flipping blast for 30 minutes or so. And my daddy's just sitting there on his little miniature bike just looking. And I'm like, boy, I bet I'll get in trouble for this one already, all these years later when I've already grown up. And so when I thanked everybody and gave some hugs and came out of that little circle and went over and rolled up next to him, and he goes, wow. I said, why are you going to still make fun of my skates with the 4 wheels on each boot? Because I can skate. And he goes, yeah, I guess you can. He said, how'd you learn that? And I said, well, all those times you wanted to impound me from Venice Beach and everything, you thought I was doing bad stuff. I said, I was learning how to dance on skates, man. That's all I was doing something constructive, So I wasn't out doping out like a lot of the folks, that I knew or saw, I said I was learning how to dance on skates and pump iron. I was doing good things, And he's like, wow. I said, yeah, don't you feel bad now, years later? You thought I was doing bad stuff, and I was just learning how to dance on skates. That's right. So that was pretty cool. Yep. Pretty darn cool. So, yeah. Sometimes life takes different turns. It's kind of interesting when you least expect it. And today was ridiculous. Trust me. Today was darn ridiculous. Mother of God. It was to the point I just wanted to call somebody. The first thing I wanted to do was just start laughing. Not say a word, just start laughing. Because it was just hilarious. Today was ridiculously hilarious mess. Yeah. God, I've never seen anything like it, I don't think. Oh my gosh. Messy, messy, messy. I didn't do it though. Nope. What a riot. But anyway, well, I hope you guys have a great day. I've got to get down to Boulevard and go get some nighty-night and start another day. Got lots of work to do. But, every day I do. Because if I don't try, I'm never going to get anywhere. And I got to make a bill before Tuesday. Well, 2 bills before Tuesday. For $200 each. So, well, thank you much. It was a slice of heaven, you guys. I love you for hanging out, and I hope I made you smile. I love you. Have a super evening, and do something kind for a stranger, and I will see you in the next one. Love ya.